Most backends are dumb, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean it literally. They store data, they retrieve data, and they don't understand a single word of it. And for years, that was fine, but the bar for being a backend engineer has moved. So I'm going to show you 3 problems that are killing your backend's intelligence. I call them the filing cabinet, I call them the graveyard of configs, and the Parrot Trap. And I'll show you how you can fix each one of these problems. I truly believe in the next 24 months, all backend engineers will be required to know this stuff. This video is sponsored by RavenDB. RavenDB is a document store that's been known for really simplifying those backend systems. They've recently started bringing very strong AI features directly into the same operational layer. So let's get into it. Starting with number 1, which we're calling the filing cabinet. I want you to think about what your backend actually does right now. Like, really think about it. You put data in it, you get data out. Maybe you filter it, sort it, maybe do some pagination, but it doesn't understand anything. And that's the problem that no one's really talking about today. And I call this the filing cabinet problem because that's exactly what most backends are. They're storage lockers, and mine was simply a storage locker for a long time with just a create, read, update, and delete attached to it. The traditional CRUD pattern was built for structured, predictable queries. Like, give me user 4,523 or show me the orders from last week. It works perfectly when you know exactly what you should be looking for. But modern applications need to now start understanding intent, not just matching fields. And that's a completely different problem that needs to be solved. And this is why large language models started feeling like magic when they first launched. They weren't smarter than Google or smarter than everyone in the world. They're just really good at understanding what you mean, what you typed, and finding the answer to the question you're asking. And that same capability is now something you can build into your own backend for fractions of a penny per query. That's the part that kind of blows my mind. Instead of users searching by keywords, they can search by meaning. This was dang near impossible just a few years ago. But now, even cheap, lightweight models can help implement that embedding that you need to do this as a real thing. So let me show you how to set up a smart database. I can get you started with proper semantic searching. All right, so the very first thing that we're going to be doing is setting up RavenDB on our machine. And I already have a Docker Compose YAML file that's going to get the latest of our RavenDB and set it all up. If you want this, you can check out the code and it's going to give you all this Docker Compose files automatically, so we don't have to go over it. But really all we need to do from here is just say Docker Compose up, and then we're going to detach it. That's going to start up our Docker container from our image. And now if we go to our browser and we go to localhost port 8080, that is going to redirect us to our RavenDB. And this is what the RavenDB interface looks like. We're going to go to databases and create a new database. And this new database is going to be called Second Brain. And then I'm going to say next, next, and then finish. And we have successfully created our product. Now, one thing that we're going to do just so we can get this out of the way, because it's going to be a necessity for our application, is let's go ahead and go to About. And here there is no license setup. We need to get a developer license to be able to run the RavenDB AI features. You need to head over to ravendb.net/download. And this will bring you to the download RavenDB screen where we can select and configure our package. But right here where it says select a free license, we're going to want to say developer. This is the plan that allows you to use the full feature of RavenDB. So go ahead, fill out all your information and generate a license. So now let's go back into our studio. I already have one, so I can just register that here and click submit. And now I am set up here with a developer license. I'm then going to go to settings, connection strings, and here's where we can set up our AI features for our RavenDB application. So I'm just going to call this OpenAI Chat, where we can just name this OpenAI Chat. We're going to use a model type of chat. We want to be using the normal OpenAI, and then we need to drop in an API key. The endpoint, we're just going to select the default. Here we can really use any model we want right here. I'm just going to say GPT 4.1 and then test our connection where that was successful, and then save connection string. We then need to do something very similar for our embeddings, which is what we're going to be using for our semantic search. So we can say OpenAI-embeddings. Make sure you select the text embeddings. And here we can go down and say we're going to be using OpenAI. We're going to be passing in the same OpenAPI key. Our endpoint is going to be the same, but this time for the model, we're going to just say like text small. Believe that's like an option in here. There it is. And then we can say test connection and then save connection. And just like that, we have AI connected to our database. And now we're going to jump back into our code, go into the backend and just say unicorn main :app -- reload to get our backend started. And then for our front end, if you haven't done it yet, you're going to want to do an npm I to install all the dependencies that we have for our front end. And then we're going to follow it up with a npm run dev. And then that's going to run at the local host of port 3000, where we can see the demo of our application. Let's go ahead and just register a user. I'm going to say Eric Roby, then ericroby@email.com, where the password is just going to be 1234 exclamation mark. And I'm going to say create account and click sign in. And here we are inside our application. Now here we can go ahead and start creating some notes. Now what I'm going to do is go to my website and I'm just going to start adding some articles to our application. So for example, here's the first article, stop chasing every new AI coding model. If we say create node, we can see that it's starting to add it. And I'm going to do this for a couple other articles just so we have a bunch here for the semantic search and chat. And here we can see that some of them are wrapping up the processing while this one's just almost complete. And there it goes. And they automatically get tags for the application, which is really cool. So now we have 12 complete articles in our database. If we look at our application and we go back into our documents, we can see the one user that we created, which is Eric Roby at email. And we can see all of the knowledge items inside our database, which literally is the entire content of the application and the summary in which it is. And then we're able to like get the key insights and auto tag it and do a lot of really amazing stuff with this data. And connecting our RavenDB to our Python Fast API application is really easy. If we just go to our backend and then we look at our database right here and we scroll down to right here, the get document store. This is a singleton. It's one document store for the whole app. Whenever we need to talk to the database, we just open a session right there. And if we scroll down a little bit to our get session, these are the sessions. They're super lightweight. We only open one, do your work, and then we close it. We use it for the fast API dependency. So every request gets its own session. And then we're going to be able to save the items right here inside our router's items. And it's pretty straightforward. If we go down a little bit to like right here, we have this create item. Here's how we save a knowledge item. We build a Python dictionary. This is the document, the title, the content, the tags, the timestamps, just plain data. If we scroll down a little bit more to right here, we can notice the metadata with the collection of knowledge items. This tells RavenDB which collection the document belongs to, and then we can just save the changes in our session. And if we scroll up a little bit and we just look at the list items, so like right here, we can see these query parameters right here. This is called RQL. That's RavenDB's query language. And it looks like SQL, but it's used for NoSQL databases. Now, some of you might be thinking, I already solved this. I use a different search mechanism in my app, and that brings me close enough to what I want. The marginal increase is just not worth it for me. And that's what brings me to the next step of the graveyard of configs. And man, let me tell you about the search cluster I maintained for 2 years. It had 7 nodes, custom analysis, custom analyzers, synonym files, and a deployment pipeline that was not very good. And after all that work, all the effort, users still complained that the search results weren't relevant. That's when I realized I was maintaining a graveyard of configurations instead of building an actual intelligence system people wanted to use. Like I was spending all my time keeping this thing alive and it still wasn't doing what we and the users needed it to do. There are a bunch of searching tools that are powerful, don't get me wrong, but they're fundamentally still keyword-based systems with relevance scoring bolted on. Vector databases are purposely built for similarity search. You store embeddings, you query with an embedding, and you get back the most semantically, similar result you can find. The configuration surface area is a fraction of what the other options require. So for example, for the find me things related to the concept use cases, vector search is simpler to build, cheaper to maintain, and produces far better results. It's just the better tool for the specific job. Luckily, RavenDB can do this on the database level. Here's how. All right, so for stage 2, we're going to add semantic search, which is the ability to search by meaning, not just keywords. And here's the cool part about being able to do this is that RavenDB does this all natively. You don't need a separate database. You don't need a separate vector database. RavenDB can do all of that. It's all built in. And how we're doing that is if we go into our backend and we check out our main.py, and we scroll down a little bit, we can see this deploy vector search index. This index map that we see right here, this is RavenDB's index map. It's like a C#-like syntax that runs inside the database. The key line here is to create vector. We're telling RavenDB to take the title, content, and summary, and then concatenate them and generate a vector embedding with that text. And if we go into our backend routers search right here, and we scroll down just a little bit, here we can see that it's just RQL with one special function, the vector search. We pass in our vector field and the uses query string. RavenDB embeds the query, runs the approximate nearest neighbor search using the HNSW algorithm, and returns the most semantically similar document, all in a single query, which is super powerful stuff. So what this looks like in action, if we go back into our application and we refresh, we will see that we have this search functionality. So it's going to give us knowledge based on the mechanisms of search. So if we say should I learn to code in 2026? It's going to give us what it believes is the best articles for this exact questions. Like 6 Claude code tips that cut dev time, why learn to code when AI can for you, rank 1, rank 2, based on the similarity of what we are asking. It's very, very powerful stuff. However, we are on semantic search right now. If we turn semantic search off and we are in keyword search, we can see that everything just changes completely because now it's trying to find keywords in the title that makes sense. And we can see that when it's semantic, it changes the entire list because it's by what you are actually trying to find in the search results. If we go back into our RavenDB, we can come over here and click indexes. And if we come down here, we click the knowledge item search, we can see in RavenDB right here, the index that we deployed. There's one content vector field. That's our vector search field, and the title content summary fields for the full text, one index, both capabilities for our application. So that's what we were trying to do here. We were able to easily implement semantic search into our application to be able to filter by meaning. Now, you've probably heard that we don't need our data in the system. Just attach a large language model. They're super cheap right now, and just have it return whatever it wants to return. This is what I call the Parrot Trap. AI models confidently make things up. It just hallucinates with confidence. RAG is how you stop the parrot from making up facts and start giving you a script to read from. And the RAG pattern is pretty straightforward once you see it. A user asks a question, your backend searches a vector database for relevant context, you stuff that context into a large language model prompt, and that LLM generates an answer grounded in your actual data. It's 3 stops. You retrieve, you augment, you generate. That's it. Without RAG, an LLM answering questions about your product is going to return some generic responses or outright just hallucinate. With RAG, the same large language model returns answers that reference your specific documentation, your specific product details, and your specific policies. The difference is literally night and day for the user trust. One makes up things, the other cites sources, and the users absolutely tell the difference. The backend architecture for RAG is more straightforward than you think. And I say this because I was intimidated by it at first. You need an ingestion pipeline that chunks your documents and generates embeddings, a vector store that holds the embeddings, a retrieval layer that finds the top K most relevant chunks for a query, and a generation layer that passes these chunks to a large language model with a well-crafted prompt. If you've ever built an API that reads from the database and returns a response, you've already kind of halfway there, but we still need to implement this intelligence layer in the middle. However, here's the thing. You don't actually need to build that intelligence layer anymore. RavenDB handles this on the database level, which means less infrastructure for you to maintain. Here's how you can do it. Now for stage 3, we want to build a full AI chat agent. This is going to allow us to be able to talk to our knowledge base in natural language, and it'll search all of our documents, synthesize answers, and cite its sources. And this is a really, really powerful thing. If we go into our backend main.py file, and we scroll now all the way down to 201, we can see our deploy AI agent. Now, this is really important stuff because we're adding in the system prompt that our agent is going to be using, and it's going to have our query tools, which is the RQL queries that the agent can use. If we start by looking at the semantic search, we can see that it's the same vector search query from demo 2, but now the AI agent decides when and how to use it. The agent gets a user question, decides it needs to search, and then runs this RQL query. RavenDB just handles the vector search internally. And if we scroll down all the way to right here, we can see the action tools. This allows the agent to be able to add items to collection, be able to add the tags, toggle favorites, and even create new notes if necessary. These aren't just read-only queries. This is allowing the agent to modify our data, which is, it's a superpower in today's software development world. However, if we go into our routers and we open up our chat.py, and we scroll down to send message. This is more or less where the magic happens, where we can send a message to the RavenDB AI agent and get a response. The agent will search the user's knowledge base, synthesize the information, respond with the sources cited, and then optionally perform actions. This is what we are covering in the main.py file. So let's go ahead and just see this in action. If we come back to our second brain and we refresh with the new checked out data, we can see that there's now going to be an AI chat. Here I can start a conversation and I can say like, what are the best tips to coding with an AI agent? If we send a message like this, it's going to search our knowledge base, which are the articles that we added to our database. And here we can see that it's going to give us information. It's going to say, provide the right contacts, avoid constantly changing new tools, learn the fundamentals to coding first, utilize AI features for efficiency, be cautious of over-reliance on AI, and foster collaboration and team productivity. And then it gives us the sources. You might be looking at this like, what are these sources? If we come up to our RavenDB, right here, we can see our chat conversation. That's the conversation that we're having. But here are the different numbers, and we can see that the 00010, these are aligning with the document. So it's saying it got this one of these responses from this article, which is the future of AI agents and code reviews. The next PR might not be human. And it's being able to find these sources, these knowledge items, and add them to our conversation and being able to respond. So it's saying like, what are the best tips to coding with AI agents? Here are some tips, and then it gives us a knowledge base for the sources. And the crazy part is that RavenDB is doing all of this itself. It's a database that allows you to not only be able to use it as a NoSQL database, but also be able to embed these AI models inside the database to allow you to be able to do everything at once. So I hope you were able to learn something new, and I'll see you in the next.